What is Peng, or ward off? So Peng is one of the 8 core moves of Tai Chi that we find through the Bagua. And I've made plenty of videos about exactly how that works and how the Bagua relates to the 8 basic moves. But Peng in a way is exceptional, mostly because it is constantly referred to and it's mentioned as being one of the most important of the 8 basic moves. It's in some texts it says, it's in the middle of everything. There's a discussion of Peng Jing, which is the Peng energy, so ward off energy, as opposed to ward off itself. So there's some confusion about what exactly it is and what are we talking about when we say Peng or ward off and ward off energy and ward off being in the middle of everything. And that's one of the issues that needs to be addressed, because if ward off is truly in the middle of everything, then it is supremely important, and it's important then for us to really understand why is it that important? Why is it in the middle of everything? And what is the nature of it and the nature of the energy that's being generated by this energy, by this move, ward off. So in some text, we hear ward off being described as the most young of all the moves, which frankly makes no sense, because even you have some other texts like the song of the 8 postures, which has a song for each of the movements. The ward off itself is described as like pushing a boat that's on water, and so the boat sinks and then bounces back. So if the first aspect of it is sinking, is absorbing, that's not yang. So ward off can't be full yang. It has to have an element of yin within it if it's receiving energy before bouncing it off. But that right there shows how there is confusion as to what exactly ward off is. So in the form, ward off is this kind of sweeping arm motion usually. It is it can't be a strike, because if you're just whacking somebody with your forearm, that's a push, right? It's a strike, as opposed to the point of ward off, which is to receive energy and then send it back. Right? You receive energy and you deflect it, you shift it, you move the vector of force that's coming towards you with ward off. You take it, you absorb it, and then you push it out of the way. That's the essence of ward off. That's the essence of Peng Jing, Peng energy, right? So receiving and pushing back. So there is this strange confusion about what exactly Peng is, and part of it has to do with the evolution of Tai Chi, and this is something I've covered in other videos, where basically some of the core aspects of Tai Chi were either hidden on purpose or shifted and lost in translation, essentially over the years and over the several shocks to the kind of the Tai Chi curriculum that happened over the last century. So that's where there's confusion. And I think that's why it's hard to make sense of ward off, because if you just read what is written in a lot of the Tai Chi classics and a lot of the text about it, you find a lot of contradictory information. So the only way to make sense of it is to go back and look at essentially the root of it. What does the form tell us? If we go through the Bagua, what does that tell us? How can that inform our understanding of Peng? And then we have to use then this idea of, Peng is in the middle of everything, is at the root of everything. And so, okay, well, what is meant by Peng? Why is it everything? Why is it in everything? And are we talking about the same thing, right? Because in a way, there is a difference between what in the text they would call Peng Jing, the quality of energy being Peng. But you can have, Fa Jing, that's the same root. So expressing energy. Or you have listening Jing. You can have all sorts of different Jings, different types of qualities of energy. So why are they going back and forth by using Peng Jing as opposed to just Peng? So is there a difference between Peng, the move, so ward off, the actual motion that we find in the form, and Peng Jing, so the energy, the quality of energy? And how is that different? Or is that pointing us to something slightly different? Is there something in Peng which is used in everything and throughout the form? Now, if we look at the rest of the form and the rest of the 8 moves, right? So you have push, you have rollback, you have elbow, shoulder strike, you have yank, twist the joint. Are the texts saying that Peng and Peng Jing is in each of those, or is it hinting at something else? Because then you have, if it's in each of those, then you have an issue, right? Because if you're saying, okay, push, which is really the move or the energy, the quality of energy, on energy, that covers all the punches and the kicks, right? It's an expression of yang energy. So, so does push have Peng in it? But you have moves in the form where there's no absorbing or receiving energy. You're just punching or kicking, right? It's a direct punch to the groin. Boom, you're punching a guy in the nuts. Where's the Peng energy there? So if there's places within the form where we can see and go, there is no Peng energy, there's no receiving of energy, there's no deflection of energy, there's just a push, then are they wrong in saying that Peng is in everything, or are they saying something slightly different? And that there's something specific about Peng, which is a quality, but quality of what? Which is found throughout the form, but is not expressed through the motions of the body, right? That's the question. So that's the nut to crack, because if you crack that nut, then suddenly it opens up all the other subjects and possibilities that are in the form. So that's the real question. What is Peng? What is Peng energy? Peng Jing. Why would it be in everything? If it's not in everything, then is that phrase, Peng Jing is in the middle of everything, does that mean something slightly different? That it's not talking about the form, it's not talking about how to do the form, but it's actually hinting at something different, at a different process. And so in order to answer that question, I think we need to go back again to the root. What is the trigram that represents Peng? Are we correct in assigning it the full on? What is being hinted at, maybe? And is the word Peng actually used differently? And if it is used differently, if it has 2 meanings, so Peng as in the move that we find in the form, and Peng as something different, then what is that second thing? So that is something that I'm looking into right now. That's what the seminar that's coming up is about, is an exploration of those ideas. And hopefully we'll come to an answer. And hopefully that will illuminate in a way the rest of the form. That's my intuition, that this is this simple question, right? What do they mean by Peng? What is Peng? Right? That will illuminate the rest of the form, because it sounds to me that this is a case where, just as we find in a lot of other internal alchemy texts and practices, words are being used in a very specific way, but each way is dependent on the school that's using it. So you can have different ideas, different terminologies for the same process, but that terminology is going to be hidden, there's going to be use of poetic language, essentially, to describe a specific process, whether it's a meditation technique or whatever it is, right? And they're going to use alchemical language. They're going to say, when the dragon blossoms, when the moon shines down on the silver. And you go, what the hell is that about? The thing is, in each school, the meaning of dragon, the meaning of moon, the meaning of blossoming has a specific meaning. It might be a meaning that is only valid for that specific school, so that only somebody who's basically introduced to that school would understand the text. So it's a way of masking or hiding the text. So we know that there is this idea of using language in a hidden way, of using language in a way that is a reference to something else. So it's not a direct correlation, but it's a hint, it's a poetic connection. So we need to see if that's the kind of logic which is now being used when talking about Peng, right? And Peng Jing and ward off. Like, are we actually using same terms to describe different things? Are there different things that have separate terms that we should be using actually different words in order to truly understand them? So that's the knot that I'm trying to unwind, basically, because we know that there is alchemical language being used in the rest of Taoist practice. Is that also happening here in our Tai Chi practice, where there are specific concepts that are being masked or hidden by the language that we're using? And as Westerners, we don't have access automatically to some of this poetic language. So we need to kind of deconstruct it and then reconstruct it in a way that makes sense to us. So that's the point. That's why, again, there's going to be a link somewhere, probably down here, for the seminar in a couple of weeks that explores this idea in full. And hopefully I will see you there.